All right, hey everybody. My name's John Wagnon here on DevCentral, and we wanted to do a quick little interview today as part of what we're calling Security Month on DevCentral. So we've kind of dubbed February as Security Month. So thanks for watching this video with us today, and we have some what I would consider industry-leading security experts who have joined us today. And so first we have from the Far East from my perspective, Brian McHenry, who is one of the world leaders in enterprise security. So Brian, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, John. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. And we couldn't let the West Coast, feel, out of touch. So we brought in David Holmes, who, from my perspective, is West. So David Holmes, who used to be a worldwide security evangelist, right, David?
That's right. That's still on my business cards.
Because
That's still what I do.
Who doesn't?
Just to clarify for everybody,
yeah.
I'm only 1 hour east of John, and I think Brian is like 1 hour. I'm 1 hour west, and John's
You're
1
hour
hour
west.
east. Not the far,
yeah,
not the far
but hey, that's all it takes, David, for me to feel like it's a world away, But hey, that's the beauty of technology. You've joined us today, so thanks for being here. Two leaders in the security world, certainly here at F5, and also we have the honor and the privilege and the pleasure of having Mr. Jason Rahm, Mr. DevCentral himself, join us as well. So Jason, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
Fantastic. All right, so we're talking about security here on DevCentral. February is Security Month. And we've got a lot of security technologies here at F5, and one of them that we wanted to talk about today is our Advanced Firewall Manager, the AFM. And so as we talk about firewalls in general, we wanted to have a quick little discussion about firewalls. And so there's this notion of application firewall, enterprise firewall, data center firewall. There's all these different firewalls floating around here, all these different terms. And so I guess the first thing that I wanted to start with is have a discussion around that. Enterprise firewall, application firewall, data center firewall. Are these really like actual things, or is it more of a marketing ploy to create new buzzwords? So maybe Brian, we'll let you weigh in on this. What do you think?
Well, as a longtime practitioner before my time at F5, I'm somewhat immune to marketing and buzzwords, or you might say jaded and cynical.
Fantastic.
So consider that when you consider my response, and I would say it's actually not just buzzwords, not just marketing. These are very specific purposes in the environment, and I've yet to come across a firewall that's really a jack of all trades that can effectively do it. Anybody that has been in the security game for a little while on the practitioner side has seen trends like unified threat management, UTM, come and go, and largely because when we try to unify all these different purposes, we end up with sort of a Frankenstein's monster that's not quite good at any one thing. So I do think you need to really consider your use case and what is my security goal, and then identify the right solution, the right type of firewall to protect my data, my resources, and protect my users.
Okay. Yeah, so it's more than some marketing guy creating new fun words. So what do you think, Jason?
Well, I was just going to say real quick on you mentioned unified threat management, and both at a previous employer where we had thousands of users, and then at a volunteer thing I do with 100 users. It doesn't really matter if it's the small office, home office, or the enterprise-sized box. None of them, at all the different price points, really did the job well.
Right. Yeah, and that's certainly what we've seen. And enterprise firewall, we had to come up with this term because there really was a shift in the market, right? Enterprise firewall has sort of under our noses, so-called next-gen firewalls have become sort of these. It's unified threat management by another name, right? Next-gen firewall is just UTM all over again. You have a jack of all trades type of box, and it has its place in your environment. But I would argue that it doesn't serve the data center or the application firewall needs.
Interesting. David, what do you think, man?
I'm going to agree with Brian on this one. It is more than just marketing. There are specific cases, and a lot of times when I think of next generation firewall, I'm thinking of something that's watching to see what is John doing with his time. Exactly how much time does John spend on Facebook anyway?
I can
and
tell
give you
you.
the kind of
You don't
give you
need
the
that
kind of
much.
reporting that you always wanted to know in the first place about what users are doing, right? That's a totally different case than say data center firewall. And I think what's cool is the analyst community is coming around to seeing that there should be different actual segments of the firewall market and treat them separately.
That's a really interesting thought. It's we live in a complex world, and networks are getting more complex, and yeah, so it's not just a one size fits all, like we said. So it's that's an interesting approach to take, and it's an interesting phenomenon to understand in today's network world. So yeah, so for those of you who only are trying to do the one size fits all thing, you probably need to consider, like Brian said, your use case, that you may need to employ different techniques here. So another, kind of another thought along those lines is I was out on Twitterverse not long ago, checking out the tweets and all, and all the, like David said, I spend some time on Facebook from time to time, and some people would claim that the perimeter is dead, or that the perimeter is soft, or that the perimeter moves around a lot. So in the context of what we just talked about, how would a firewall fit into what we would now know as the new perimeter? So what do you guys think about that?
Well, it looks like David's giving that pregnant pause, setting me up for an ambush. So I'll just jump right in here. I think what we mean when I said the perimeter is dead, we declare the death of a lot of things in technology, right? We declare load balancers are dead. I even read an article by some guy that said web application firewalls are dead. So we declare death, but what we really are trying to do is stir up some interest and get people to think differently, right? And reconsider. And for a long time, we've built these high walls and moats and spiked fences around our data center, and really approached it from a warfare perspective, right? This very militaristic type of paradigm, right? It's the attack and defense, and they're outside, and what I need to protect is on the inside. And what we've started to evolve towards, and I'm stealing this from Chris Weisselpel, who's the CTO and one of the founders of Veracode, who recently gave a talk at an event I was at. So all due credit, but really moving towards a safety paradigm, right? Doing business on the internet is an inherently unsafe activity, right? And so how do we ensure the safety of not just our data, but of things in flight, the transactions, and of our users, right? There's more and more concern about the safety of the user environment. What can we do to make the browser a less wild and woolly place to conduct our business? So I think the perimeter is dead. Long live the perimeter, as they say. But just start to consider what are the perimeters we need to define, right? Is it a wall between us and the user, or is it more of a tunnel through hazardous minefields of the internet between us and our users, and getting data from point A to point B? Because at the end of the day, the perimeter is really a little shell around the data that we want to protect. All these applications and browsers and all this other crap, it really is just a bunch of facilitators for moving data around in a usable way.
Interesting. So maybe when we say the perimeter's dead, maybe that's the marketing ploy thing
that might be some marketing speak. That might be some
marketing guy sitting in his office one day. So yeah, fantastic. David, what do you think, man?
Well, first, John, I'm glad that you're able to take a break from Facebook to go look at Twitter.
No. Please believe I have more than one screen operating right now. Okay. I am on Facebook. So,
okay, good.
Sorry.
Good, you had me worried. The perimeter is not dead. David Bowie is dead, but the perimeter has changed. The perimeter.
Too soon.
Was that too soon? I'm sorry, guys. Well, this isn't going to air till February, so.
Hey, that's right. This is in like 2 days.
The perimeter is now John Wagnon, right? The perimeter is the user. That's the right way to look at security now. Right? Identify who it is exactly who's coming in, and then put the perimeter around them. And then we used to do this in like application security all the time with like the WAF. Identify the user first, make sure it's them, and then kind of let them do what they want. But if they're just coming in randomly from the internet and you don't know who it is, don't give them access to anything even computationally expensive or anything like a large PDF file or something. Mm-hmm. So the new perimeter is the user.
Wow. So I kind of see that as analogous. I don't know if you guys played the game Stratego when you were kids. But the old paradigm is like Stratego. You set up your whole board, and you've got your your flag, and everything hinges on your strategic plan working out. But as soon as it doesn't work out, you're out of luck. There's no change. But the new paradigm is, obviously, if there's change on the front line, you're going to start reacting to that and doing something different on the back end. And so, traditional ways of securing people, resources, path, all of that, goes out the door.
I'm probably most impressed that Jason found a way to incorporate Stratego into our discussion today. That's fantastic. No, but there's just a lot of truth to the whole idea of the world is a very quickly changing place, and you need to change with it. Don't do things the way you did 20 years ago, or in our business even 20 minutes ago. So good times. So hey, really quick to kind of wrap up this little discussion. We talk about the AFM that F5 has. We've talked about the data, all these different firewalls. We've talked about the perimeter. Is it dead? Is it not? Whatever. How would AFM then fit into this whole discussion? What does it do well that people could say, hey, let me look at AFM for some things?
It defines a really strong perimeter of your data center.
It is the new perimeter.
So I'm going to disagree with David Holmes here and say that there still is a perimeter around the data center, but the idea is that we need to extend that perimeter from the data center out to encompass and embrace our user, right? And so at the edge of our data center, we don't need the enterprise firewall. We don't need all the bells and whistles. Because the threat model, and this is a term thrown around a lot, right? The threat model at the edge of the data center is different than the threat model in between zones inside your data center or on your campus LAN, and so you have to, and your threat model will follow data flow, right? So at the edge of the data center, there's a lot of inbound data flow. The connections are initiated inbound, and then responses are sent out. So that dictates or demands a different kind of firewall, especially because it's an unpredictable volume of data, right? I don't have control over the internet. So my threat model for a data center firewall is data flow inbound primarily over a handful of protocols and a very unpredictable load. So, and when I say unpredictable load, I'm alluding to potentially DOS attacks. Or maybe even what I like to call organic DOS, Black Friday DOS, right? Where success sometimes breeds failure. Success on the business side breeds failure because our capacity isn't there, creating like an organic DOS condition. So that threat model, your threat model, follow the data, and you'll get a threat model and figure out, what am I going to put in this location at the edge of the data center? Well, that's going to follow the threat model that is dictated by the data flow at the edge of the data center.
Very interesting. Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. But David Holmes, he kind of disagreed with what you said a second ago, so let him have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I must say that organic DOS sounds so much better than outage.
I love it. Organic DDoS, our business.
Organic, grass-fed, locally sourced DOS.
I love it. Yeah, vegan, cage-free. Yeah.
Organic DOS. So if you're writing a report right now to your superior about your last outage, just change that to organic DOS. But Brian is right that the fundamental, like the place that AFM fits the best is like a data center firewall, right? That's where you have 6 or 12 open ports. You're expecting 95% of your traffic over SSL or some mix of HTTP and HTTPS, and you're basically going to accept traffic from almost anywhere in the world, right? And it's mostly inbound, right? That's a fundamentally different case than maybe your enterprise firewall or your campus firewall. That's definitely the best case. And there was one other firewall you guys had talked about, and I'm trying to remember which one that was.
The application
firewall. Yeah.
No. Oh, it'll come to me. But anyway, I'm actually quite in agreement with Brian on this one. And there's another place. Okay, I remember what it was. It was if you have an opportunistic place where you need to stick a firewall, right? But there's already an F5 there, and you might find this like if you're building a pod in an ISP right? And you're like, well, we have to have a certified firewall. I don't want to pay for another one for every single pod we build. Hey, you know what? The F5's right there. We've seen it put in with great success there, and you can do it similarly and implement east-west firewalls in places where you already had load balancers anyway. Yeah. I'm not sure that there's a specific way to talk about that in the market, but you could think of it as any place where you have a firewall adjacent to the F5 load balancer.
The opportunistic firewall. Is that a new marketing term the opportunistic firewall?
It's better than organic DOS.
Yeah.
Opportunistic. No, it's not.
Yeah. Opportunistic firewalls naturally follow organic grain-fed DDoS attacks. So, fantastic. Well, hey, fellas. So this was a phenomenal discussion about just the overall idea of perimeters, firewalls in general, where AFM might fit. Like you said, a data center firewall is a great use case or a business case. And so while we'll go ahead and wrap this discussion up, I will tell all the viewers out there to look forward to more discussions, even among the four of us. And certainly after this discussion, how could you do anything but look forward to another discussion among the four of us? So anyway, thanks for joining us today, and we will come back. Our next video with the four of us, we'll dig a little deeper into some of the capabilities of the AFM itself, some of the technical kind of cool features that it has that you can explore. So thanks again. We'll see you guys out there in the DevCentral community.